You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. It's a warm welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, Eben Jansen. This show is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are repeated at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every weekday morning, with the entire show available on our YouTube channel all of the time, which means you can watch it anywhere in the world at your leisure. Today, we take a look at preferential treatment in South African prisons. We cross to Parliament for an update on the response to the President's State of the Nation address, and we look ahead to tomorrow's second cricket test that kicks off in Port Elizabeth. But first, let's take a look at the news headlines. Opposition parties will further debate President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address in Parliament today. Yesterday, they were very critical of it, accusing him of reveling in the glory of his predecessors. They all said the gains of 20 years of democracy had been eroded. Media houses will ask the High Court in Pretoria today for permission to broadcast Oscar Pistorius' murder trial next month. The application is being brought by news channel ENCA. Pistorius is accused of killing his girlfriend Reva Steenkamp in February last year. The National Prosecuting Authority says it will not oppose the application to broadcast the trial. And the South African cricket team has been dealt a blow with the withdrawal of all-rounder Ryan McLaren from the squad ahead of the second test match against Australia starting in Port Elizabeth tomorrow. He's been diagnosed with a mild concussion after being struck by Australian destroyer Eben Jansen in Centurion on Saturday. Now in life, it's always been said that it's not about what you know, but about who you know. Something that became all too clear this week as the so-called Waterkloof 4, or should we say the Waterkloof 2, landed on the front pages again. Barely a week after they were released from Kgosi Mampuru prison in Pretoria. This after a video of them celebrating their imminent release was shown. Let's take a look.
Ons naweek hier in die tronk. Is dit vir frikadello? Former Henny. Henny het sy hoed gaan uithaal. Ja, sy kans ons nou botteltjie. Kom ons kyk hoeveel ek kan by die bereken hoor. Also is wat Fransjo vir ons gestuur het. En dan Chrissy het get more you like it. En Chrissy het 'n somerhoed aan. Ons ek sal nou net sê, maar ek het dit ook al gedoen. Ja, jammer. Voor 4 minute drink met die tronk, maar ek mag spreek nog meer. Ek gaan nog net altyd.
The video goes on for more than 3.5 minutes and shows them in various poses, seemingly having a party behind bars. This raises serious questions about prisoners getting preferential treatment in jail here in South Africa. We are joined by Lucas Munting, Project Coordinator for the Civil Society Prison Reform Initiative, who joins us in Cape Town. Good morning, Mr. Munting. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity.
I don't know if you've watched the video that we've just played, but I'm sure you've seen some of it in the couple of days past. Just give us your opinion on the release and then the rearrest of them 2 days later. Give us your opinion on how this thing transpired.
Well, they were released according to what the law provides for. And then the video became available in the social media, and 2 of them were recalled. But this was not for a parole violation, but rather for an offence or offences that may have been committed inside prison. So that makes it a bit unusual. I'm not aware of similar incidents that have taken place in the recent past, but there may have been, and the Department of Correctional Services may answer that question.
What does this video say about being in prison in South Africa, and would that be a fair reflection and assessment?
I think the Waterkloof 4 as a particular case has grabbed our imagination to some extent because of the nature of the crime involved, the young age at which it was committed, the fact that it was till to date an anonymous homeless man. And yet, and the courts have expressed their opinion on this, these 4 young men have not shown any remorse. And here we see them in prison, at least 2 of them, seeming that they're having a party. And I think that speaks to some extent to our notions of what is right and what is wrong, and how one should take responsibility for crimes committed. And to that extent, it leaves us with a bit of unease about what is punishment. Now, in my own observations, I don't think what we see there is reflective of the majority of prisoners. And that's the question about preferential treatment. Whether they were preferentially treated by DCS officials, that the investigation must establish through the normal channels. But it's also clear that they are supported by their families that are apparently affluent and are able to provide them with certain means that other prisoners may not have access to.
Talk about preferential treatment. Is bribery, corruption commonplace in prisons in South Africa?
I think one can work with a fair amount of confidence to say that petty corruption is unfortunately quite common. And as an example of this is the number of cell phones and other items that are brought into prisons. And these are probably the majority brought in by officials through bribery. And an example of that is that late last year there was a raid at Westville Prison in Durban, and nearly 1,000 phones were confiscated. And that gives us some indication as to the extent of the problem. On the other hand, on a grand corruption scale, I think the Department of Correctional Services have put in a range of effective measures to address high-level corruption, although some of those cases have still not been prosecuted.
In your opinion, this whole debacle that we see now, what are the main issues or the main issue that needs to be addressed or needs drastic attention?
I think the issue when we talk about prisons and prison reform after 1994 is how governance and human rights have interacted with each other. The first 10 years, the Department of Correctional Services spiraled downwards into a malaise of maladministration, corruption, human rights violations, and so forth. The situation is undoubtedly, it has improved. But there are still significant challenges where we see that prisoners are assaulted. There are thousands of complaints regarding assaults every year. Prisoners who have died in custody, those cases are not being prosecuted. There are continuous allegations of corruption, of not having access to proper healthcare services, not having access to education and various programs. So there are significant challenges on a broad front. And that necessitates strong leadership and stable leadership within the Department of Correctional Services. And we again recently saw the retirement of the previous commissioner, and to my knowledge a new permanent commissioner has not yet been appointed. And that places the department at risk again.
The fundamental question I think that all South Africans are asking right now is that if you are by the means, or if you're rich, is your experience in prison going to be a lot different from someone who is poor and in prison?
I think we can work from the assumption that a person who has the financial means firstly has access to legal representation, and that may have a significant bearing on the punishment that the court imposes. There are also subsequent steps in regard to parole and so forth. We know that inside prisons, whether it's allowed or not, it really doesn't matter, but money talks, and that gives people access to various resources that are valuable within a prison environment.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. Lucas Munting is the project coordinator for the Civil Society Prison Reform Initiative, giving us a little bit of an insight as to what life is like in prison. If you follow the videos that's been going on YouTube, it looks like if you are by the means or of the means in South Africa, it's not such a bad place to be in prison. We move on. 2 days has been set aside for opposition parties and members of Parliament to respond to President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address. The debate kicked off yesterday and will continue this afternoon. On Thursday, President Zuma will have an opportunity to reply to the debate. President Zuma delivered his State of the Nation address last Thursday, the 13th of February. Because 2014 is an election year, it is expected that there will be another State of the Nation address after the national and provincial elections. From Parliament, we are joined by the presidential correspondent, Mzwandile Mbeje. Good morning, Zwa.
A very good morning to you, Eben.
So I think it would be fair to say that the opposition parties put the boot in yesterday, but that's expected, isn't it?
Well, in your intro, you made it clear that this is election year. 2014 is election year. And of course, everything that is coming here, you can see that the mood of election is permeating all over the corridors of Parliament. Indeed, a good story to tell by the ruling party being ripped apart by opposition, but of course saying they actually have their good story to tell. So what I can tell you, Eben, is that, you know, the catchphrase around here is a good story to tell, but it depends which story you want to hear or which story you want to believe.
Yeah, the opposition parties, they jumped on the good story to tell scenario, but just recap quickly yesterday for us some of the key points that were made in Parliament. I know that Lindiwe Mazibuko had her points, and so did all the others.
As you've indicated, Eben, so this is a very interesting debate that is going on here. Of course, is the last State of the Nation address that President Zuma delivered on Thursday in his first term, or maybe in this administration, because there will be elections on the 7th of May, and of course we expect another State of the Nation from whoever would have won elections. You know, what the President did on Thursday was basically to give an account of what this government has done since 1994 in the past 5 years during his administration. He mentioned a number of achievements that the government had undertaken, and of course, and the challenges that everyone still needs to tackle. This is the opportunity now for the opposition parties, not only opposition parties, but for members of Parliament to then respond to this State of the Nation address. As can be expected, the ruling party members are praising this State of the Nation address, saying there's been huge progress that has been made, whether it's the issue of education, whether it's the issue of health, or rural development. So they are saying you can see the infrastructure is already underway, despite the challenges that the government still needs to confront. Of course, opposition parties is having none of that. Yeah. They are basically saying, first of all, the president is reveling in the successes of his predecessors, which is President Mandela and President Mbeki, and they are saying under this administration there have been a regress insofar as those achievements are concerned. So they are basically poking holes in everything that the president had said. But as I said to you, Eben, this is an election year. Whoever gets to the podium will want to score points as much as possible. As for the DA, for example, yesterday, you know, one of the things they've been complaining about, let's say bitterly, they've been complaining about the leadership. I mean, they repeated that mantra yesterday, saying, you know, South Africa lacks leadership. They are accusing President Zuma of poor leadership. And of course, COPE, they were complaining about corruption. And then IFP saying, you know what, there have been too many promises and they are not being followed through. Despite that, all opposition parties, by the way, do agree that today is better than 1994, but they are saying the way things are being done now are actually reversing that. You know, Bantu Holomesa, for example, was saying he does acknowledge that there has been some progress, but the kind of services that are being provided now are not up to standard. So we expect that to continue, because today is the second day where members of Parliament will then debate this. But I can tell you that the ruling party members, like Minister Naledi Pandor, are firing from all cylinders, quoting some of the statistics that really do show that there has been progress. For example, she was quoting from the South African Institute of Race Relations, where they are making it clear that even the protests that we see are actually as a result of the successes that the government has undertaken. So which means that story that President Zuma said, that, you know what, as much as people are dissatisfied with aspects of delivery, but the fact that they've seen that the government has the capacity of delivering, they are actually saying, so we can't wait, we also want services brought to us. Yeah. So you have a lot of people, opposition, saying, you know what, this is the opportunity for them to really get the chance so that they can make sure that they expose the government, and then the electorate will decide. But the ruling party says, you know what, the achievements that have been achieved in the past 20 years, no country in Africa has ever done that. I mean, as I'm saying to you, they were quoting extensively, even from Goldman Sachs, so who are talking about the kind of the economy that we're having now compared to the economy that we're having then.
On a personal level, though, finally, Zwai, from what I saw yesterday, the president, he looked to take it all in his stride. He had a few times where he had a couple of giggles. He looked to take it all in very good spirits yesterday.
Well, if you are the president, you are the president of all, those who praise you and those who criticize you. And of course, he has to take everything that people say. I'm sure even from some of the criticism, I'm sure he will not then just be dismissive of it all. Some of it, I'm sure he will then take out the good points and the elements of the criticism, and of course build on that. And obviously those who would praise the work he has done, I'm sure he will really take heart from that. But I think, as I've said, you know, he's the president, so whatever happens, so everything comes to him, and that he has to be able to handle it with dignity as head of state.
Thank you, Zwandile. That's our presidential correspondent, Zwandile Mbeje, giving us a little update from Parliament. Of course, the response to the President's State of the Nation address continues in Parliament a little bit later today, and the President will then respond to that tomorrow. Just to recap, opposition parties will further debate President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address in Parliament today. Yesterday, they were very critical of it, accusing him of reveling in the glory of his predecessors. They all said the gains of 20 years of democracy had been eroded.
2014 is an election year, a fact not lost on opposition parties. They decried poor leadership in the country.
South Africans yearn for a bold plan of action from the President. They want a vision for the future, a way out of the crises that have engulfed our nation over the last 5 years. But on Thursday night, they were left disappointed once again.
Cope accused the President of being a false prophet and went on to say corruption had betrayed the electorate.
So now our people must go to the voting stations, and they must vote for those who will not allow money to disappear in their hands.
The AFP says South Africa was tired of promises.
Promises raise expectations, and when promises are broken, people protest. These are your people, sir, members of the ANC, who are engaging in violent protests against their government. It is not a case of playing party politics.
Despite acknowledging that life is better than 1994, UDM's Holomisa said service delivery normally fell short of expectations.
Millions of South Africans in townships, rural and peri-urban areas still do not have access to land, houses, water and sanitation. Even in instances where service deliveries have been delivered, the quality of the final product leaves much to be desired.
The President will reply on Thursday, where he is expected to stress that this country has made great strides despite challenges that still lie ahead. Mzwanele Mbeje, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, we'll keep you updated on this very channel as to how that response continues in Parliament a little bit later today. Meanwhile, 2 of the so-called Particular 4 were rearrested following their release on parole will today know if their parole will be revoked. Frikkie du Preez and Christoph Becker were rearrested after a video showing them allegedly drinking and partying in jail went viral.
The Vaterklo 4 were released last week after being jailed for beating a homeless man to death in Pretoria in 2001. But for Dupree and Becker, their freedom was fleeting. They were rearrested on Sunday as a 72-hour probe into the jail cell party got underway. In the video, Becker says in Afrikaans, "It's a nice weekend in jail here. We're having a great time. We managed to get a bottle of something."
The fact that evidence about their deviation from policies and flouting of our regulations came after they were released or placed on parole, it is not the issue here. The issue is that crime in terms of our policy and legislation has been committed. And secondly, we brought them in so that we can investigate and also put them to question and ensure that they appear before the CMC.
The incident also exposed the extent of corruption at correctional facilities. The department says it will deal harshly with those implicated. Its findings will be made public. Offenses Timo, SABC, Pretoria.
Of course, we brought you all of that earlier. Let's take a look at what you were talking about on social media. Paul Klassen says, my opinion, many of the Soda debate disagreements Zuma refers to seem to be the issue that he don't put the country and people first. That from Paul. Wamui Mbau says, Buthelezi, a little like Grandpa Freeman in his desperate attempts to link himself to the struggle. Hashtag Sona debate, he says. Smanga says, I'm enjoying the Sona debate, really, without political align. Some points raised are valid. Pity, politic affiliation, preoccupy how... Okay, let's move on. Kolani says, watching the debate in Parliament on Zuma Sona, they made. These people are funny. They take ruthless jabs at each other. That's right, that's the nature of the political beast. It is, and in South Africa we have a very mature democracy where we allow each other to take pot shots in Parliament. We haven't had a fight yet in Parliament. Some other countries, civilized countries, they call themselves around the rest of the world. Well, after a short break, we're going to look at why President Robert Mugabe might be missing his own 90th birthday celebration this weekend. That's after a short break, right here on Newsroom on SABC News.
Good day and welcome to yet another evening of Afroshowbiz News. Skeleton Bantula is a street dance act from Johannesburg's township of Soweto. The duo will be traveling to the United States of America next week.
Tourists came to Vilakazi and they saw them and they spotted them and they were really fascinated, intrigued by what they do. And they said they've never seen these before. They are really looking forward to that Afroshowbiz Junior, because they're talking about, oh, I've never been inside the plane before, I want to go.
That's Afroshowbiz News, Saturdays 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're still in Newsroom on SABC News. Well, we are going to start... Are we going to Zimbabwe? Are we going to Port Elizabeth? Thank you very much, Eugene. We're going to look at cricket in Australia. Australia have been hard at work in the nets preparing for the second cricket test against South Africa starting tomorrow in Port Elizabeth, while showing no signs of relenting after dismantling South Africa for a 281-run victory at Centurion last week. Australian fast bowler Mitchell Johnson was the destroyer-in-chief with a career best of 12 wickets in the match for 127 runs. Now, our assignments editor down in Port Elizabeth, Tommy Dixon, joins us this morning. Good morning, Tommy. Are you with us?
Good morning, Eben.
Tommy, I see you've got the hallowed turf of St. George's Park there behind you. It's going to be another battle tomorrow. What are the people saying after this heavy defeat that the Australians inflicted on South Africa? What are the people saying in Port Elizabeth? They're still going to go and support the Proteas?
Well, it's going to be a very fascinating game tomorrow, Eben, even though the Proteas are 1-0 down, but the people here in the province are really excited about the game. In fact, they came in numbers to welcome the two teams when they arrived in the city on Monday, and they're very excited about the prospects and the game itself tomorrow. And they understand that the Proteas could very well change the game tomorrow and, spring up a surprise to level the series, as we know that they are now on the back foot. But there is great excitement indeed among the people of the province about the game itself, but also about the fact that they will be able to see their superstars, right here in the province. I'm sure thousands of them will come to St. George's Park tomorrow to be able to watch that game. It's ready, as you can see, the players behind me, and they've taken to the nets and, preparing for the game. And we do know that even the ground itself has been neatly prepared, and it's going to depend on the players really to make a difference about the game tomorrow. Eben?
St. George's Park, and it's always in fantastic nick. I wanted to ask you about support, because last week in Centurion, the support was very poor. The turnout was quite poor the first couple of days. It was almost empty. Can we expect better crowds in Port Elizabeth over the next couple of days?
There is that possibility indeed, Eben, like I said. I mean, it's not quite often that you see such games coming to this side of the country. There is indeed the possibility that you could see quite great numbers of people coming to the game tomorrow, and we've seen already, and people have been already asking about tickets to go to the game. A lot of people have been, even in the newspapers, when you look there, you see there's great excitement, people really wanting to get to the field and see good quality game. As to whether the Proteas would live up to those expectations and be able to level the series now, it's something else. But the danger here is that if it doesn't win tomorrow here at St. George's Park, it means that the last game in Newlands in Cape Town next month will just be an academic exercise, because it would have lost the series really, because Australia is leading as we speak after having won the first game in Centurion with 281 runs. So it's a steep hill.
I wanted to ask you, I saw Ryan McLaren has just withdrawn injured. That means that local boy Wayne Parnell, PE's favourite son, will probably play tomorrow then. Is that accurate?
There is that possibility. We haven't seen yet the final team list as to who will be on the field, but the absence of McLaren really opens that opportunity for other players like Panel, for instance, or Tami Tsolekile, for instance. There's a chance that those players who didn't get a chance to play in Centurion may very well be standing in a good position now to be able to be considered to take part in this series. I mean, the absence of McLaren is indeed a great blow for South Africa. We do know what happened after he was he got caught by that ball from Mitchell Johnson. If you watch that game, you'd remember that incident when Mitchell Johnson was bowling that ball, and then McLaren was caught on the crease, and as a result of that, he suffered some concussion and some headaches. That's why he's not playing. But like I said, I mean, it opens great opportunities for other players who have not been able to take part in the first game in Centurion.
Well, we look forward to the match. But there's also some other news that you are looking at a little bit further north in East London today, I think.
We are, in fact, looking at that. Indeed, Eben, the whole issue about municipalities in the Eastern Cape province is a topical issue. It's an issue that refuses to go away because of the extent of the challenges and the problems that are facing municipalities in the Eastern Cape. Now, one of the issues now that has just come up, which officials and the leaders in the municipality, including the provincial government, that they are battling with now is the demand that has just risen up, particularly from the unions. They are now demanding what is known as a 14th check. Now, you do understand the theory about the 14th check. You and I, we're working for a corporate company that provides for like a 13th check, which means that at the end of the year you get some little something in terms of the bonus, then they call that a 13th check. And then you get a 14th check when the company does well, when it performs well, and then a company then will then be kind enough to give employees an extra bonus, which they then call the 14th check. Now, the municipal workers, they want this to be a standard. They want this to happen annually. You know what I mean? They want to get 13th check and a 14th check, irrespective of how the municipality performs, irrespective of the revenues that are collected or not collected, but they want to have a standard 14th check as part of their salary packages. Now, obviously, there's no municipality who can be able to afford to grant this kind of demand. But the interesting thing is that there are municipalities who have broken the law, as far as we're told by the provincial government that is in charge of the local government, of this sphere of government. That there are municipalities, in fact, that have actually done that. There's 7 of them in the province that have gone on to give workers 14th check, and this is illegal. And now they're going to pursue and investigate those municipalities to ensure that they reverse those payments and that they collect that money and bring it back to the coffers of the municipalities. So that's what we're following. To ask the question really is as to whether this is something that workers should be demanding, and instead of maybe prioritizing that they get the wage that they deserve, but also ensure that the municipalities do give the services that people need out there.
Tommy, thank you very much for that contribution. We look forward to that story. Sounds interesting. I also want a 14th check, Tommy, but I think everybody in the country wants that. It's not what you can always that you can get that at any time. Let's take a quick look again at what you are thinking about or talking about on social media. 14th check. Yeah, I want a 14th check. There we go. Teboho says SATU doesn't strike for late books delivery, bad working conditions with kids learning under trees, dilapidated buildings, but for a 0.5% bonus. Yes, my friend, it's all about the money all the time. 14th check, 0.5%. SATU and their team destroy the poor black child's future attitude. It's sickening. An organization destroying young people's lives. That one from Sia. EFF 20 Levito, so they say SATU must just teach and stop with this nonsense. Of course, that's... and Lydia van der Merwe says, so SATU is planning another teacher strike. Cry the beloved country, she says. Yes, those are just some of your thoughts coming in. Keep it coming. We love it. At SABC Newsroom on Twitter. That's our Twitter page, of course. If you want more news, more updates from all around the world, you can go to sabc.co.za/news. That's where we get all the best from all around the world, all of the time. Well, we're going to take a short break. Hopefully when we come back, we get that update from Zimbabwe. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
Wednesday, the 26th of February, Minister Pravin Gordhan tables the 2014 budget plan to address the important areas that will make our country better. And your front row seat is on the SABC News channel, live at 2 p.m.
Welcome back. You're still with Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just take a quick look at our top stories. Opposition parties will further debate President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address in Parliament today. Yesterday, they were very critical of it, accusing him of reveling in the glory of his predecessors. They all said the gains of 20 years of democracy have been eroded. Media houses will ask the High Court in Pretoria today for permission to broadcast Oscar Pistorius' murder trial next month. The application is being brought before the court. Pistorius is accused of killing his girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp, in February last year. The National Prosecuting Authority says it will not oppose the application to broadcast the trial. And the South African cricket team has been dealt a blow with the withdrawal of all-rounder Ryan McLaren from the squad ahead of the second test match against Australia. That starts in Port Elizabeth tomorrow. He's been diagnosed with a mild concussion after being struck by Australian destroyer Mitchell Johnson in Centurion on Saturday. Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe has reportedly flown out of the country for a medical operation in Singapore. According to a Herald report, Mugabe was going for a routine cataract operation. His spokesperson, George Charamba, said the president was going for a second operation, this time to his left eye. Mugabe's health has been the subject of much speculation in that country, with rumours over the years suggesting that the veteran leader has prostate cancer. Well, now we are joined on the line by political analyst Dumisani Nkomo. Good morning, Dumisani. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Dumisani, just clear us up. President Mugabe, he's in Singapore at the moment. Some speculating over his health and prostate cancer scares or cataract operations. Tell me, what do you make of it, and will he miss his birthday celebrations over the weekend?
Yeah, there's always speculation every year about the president's health, and it's been intensifying over the years, because obviously at 90, a human being is bound to have many ailments. So the problem is that his health is in the public interest, because there are a lot of things that are happening in the country. For example, right now we have a huge scandal around salaries and mismanagement of parastatals, and he hasn't said anything about it. So it's really worrying that there hasn't been any proper official statement about his health from his spokesperson to allay fears that he may not be well. So it's very important for the public to know his health, to know that he's well or he's unwell. But obviously every year there's always speculation and rumors about his health. It's something that happens on a yearly basis. But it has intensified over the past year or so because of his advanced age.
This weekend it'll be his 90th birthday celebrations. Some people say that the health scare this time could be quite serious because it looks like he won't be back in time. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think we shouldn't bank too much on his health. But people thought that he was seriously ill, and he actually appeared in public. So I think people should not invest their hope in his illness, because he is likely to make a reappearance again. Because it builds onto the whole Mugabe myth that Mugabe can't die even if he gets sick, he'll reappear again. So the problem is that it also builds onto the whole mythology around him, that people say that he's sick, that he's dead, and then he reappears again. So the problem with these rumors is that they feed on to that whole myth which has been constructed. And I think it can even state agents feed onto that as well. And when he appears in public, it then sort of like proves that he's not sick. And it builds onto that whole mythology around him. Him being somebody who's able to overcome sickness and death and all of that. So I think people have to take it with a pinch of salt. After all, his mother died at the age 100.
Yeah.
So indications are that his genes might actually push him up to 95. That's very possible.
I wanted to ask you finally, Dumisani, to talk to us about how long do we expect President Robert Mugabe to continue in office? He is 90 years old. And then what is the succession plan in place, or is it still a thorny issue?
I don't think there's a succession plan. I actually think he will die in office. That's what I think. I don't see him handing over power to anybody. Succession will take place after his death, but I don't see him handing power to anybody. At the moment, he's playing the two factions against each other. You know, whenever one faction is weak, you know, the faction which is weak is strengthened, and then the strong faction is weakened. So really, I don't see any succession plan, and I don't see him handing power to anybody. If he then happens to die in office, the constitution is clear. It's the first vice president who then becomes president. But I don't think there's any succession plan. People should forget about that. That's not there. It's always just a carrot to see who's interested in the presidency.
Well, Dumisani Nkomo, political analyst, thank you very much for joining us there on the line from Zimbabwe. Of course, President Robert Mugabe has flown out to Singapore for more treatment, and well, we can tell you he's going to probably miss his 90th birthday celebrations at the weekend. Finally, World Ventures Travel Club will this week officially roll out their first World Ventures Foundation Service excursion here in South Africa. Each year, World Ventures, together with the World Ventures Foundation, run various programs, initiatives around the world. Tomorrow, approximately 50 Southern African-based volunteers will participate in making a difference at grassroots level, working with Botshabelo, a charity that's based in Midrand. Botshabelo not only runs a baby's home for abandoned children and those given up for adoption, but also focus on preschool teacher training. Joining us in studio to tell us more is Stephen and Tessa Khan from World Ventures. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Hi. Good morning, Eben. How are you?
Very good today. Very good. It's midweek and the cricket starts tomorrow, so, you know, I'm happy.
Wonderful.
I wanted to ask you about the various programs and initiatives that you guys are involved with, and this charity specifically, if you guys can sort of give us a look in.
Great. Okay. Just thank you very much for allowing us here and with SABC. It's just great to be here. World Ventures and World Ventures Foundation are a company based in Plano, Texas, in the United States. Tessa and I are independent representatives. We need to make that statement right up front, that we don't work for the company. We are just independent reps that volunteer our time towards a good cause. Now, 5 years ago, the foundation was formed within the company, and it started with building what we call bottle schools in Guatemala. And Hug It Forward, which is a charity organization, requested some of us as volunteers and members as ourselves. We have the people and the manpower, and they have the principles and the system to work. And that began World Ventures Foundation. So it's all volunteers that are representatives for the company.
Tell us about Botshabelo and the sort of interjections you guys are involved with.
Wow. Well, I always look at everything as how do I give back? And we were introduced to Botshabelo in December, where we had a braai, where we got together, we collected stuff to donate to the home. And we decided we wanted to do a volunteerism here in South Africa so we can give back to our people. And we went into Botshabelo, and I left my heart there. So what they do is Botshabelo look after children from the ages of birth to the age of 2. They are abandoned children, children that are up for adoption. So they do a lot of that work. And I said to them, how do we give back? And they said, well, we've got another arm that actually helps uplift and educate children from the age of 6 months to 6 years. And that's where my passion actually lies.
So now with this sort of interjection, are you looking at maybe extending it elsewhere around the country, taking it a little bit nationwide?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we have representatives in all the major cities and all around South Africa. There is an initiative that is taking place in Durban. We have started this one here in Johannesburg, Midrand area. There's one that started in Zimbabwe last year because we're located there as well. So yes, we'd love to extend this further around South Africa. However, we've at the moment identified 14 schools that are part of the teacher training program, and those are the 14 schools that we've earmarked for this year, once a month to go in and uplift and just beautify the environment that the children can be in a better learning environment for growing up.
Tessa, tell us about Thursday. Tell us about tomorrow. Now, who will be there? Who will be attending, and what will be happening? Okay,
so we've got 50 members. Representatives around the country that have come to us, even some from Zimbabwe, which is really, really exciting. We're all going to meet up in Midrand. We're going through to Botshabelo. What we're doing is we are building and painting and doing kitchens and all sorts of things. But we have got Carl Lowe, who's our international, what is he? International expansion, in charge of international expansion, Vice President. He will be out here. He arrives today, I think it is. And Matt Morris, who's one of the top income earners in the business, and he has a bestseller, so that's really exciting. So they're coming out, they're going to get involved at grassroots, do some painting. And what's even more exciting, I'd like to share with you, because we've got so many volunteers and because we've been able to raise so much money, we are going in, and last night a decision was made that we're going in and we're actually going to be painting a foster home as well tomorrow.
Well, that's fantastic news. Just to tell us about the funding around the project. How does it work?
Okay, so the funding is not coming from any organization. We, as I once said again, we are volunteers. So each volunteer has contributed a small amount of finances to fund some of the purchases that we're doing. But we've had people doing cupboards over the week. They've put kitchen cupboards in. We're putting kitchen sinks in. We've got a fridge that has been donated. We're taking the kids out of the school to Laurie Park Zoo, and they're able to give us a massive discount. And it's just amazing how giving people are when you actually put this out into the nation. It's just so heartwarming.
That's fantastic, and it's a fantastic, and all the success tomorrow. It's a real fantastic initiative, and hopefully you guys can take it around the country and really make a difference. Thank you very much. That's Stephen and Tessa Khan from World Ventures. Of course, they're involved with Botshabelo, and they are doing fantastic work for the kids in South Africa. Let's take a quick and final look at what you are talking about on social media. Of course, you can send your contributions to @SABC Newsroom. Stuart Sliper talks about Kiev burning over an economic debate. It's pretty terrifying as we move into a tough year for some emerging markets. Is there more to come? That is a legitimate question, Stuart. I think the next 2 years might be quite tough for emerging markets all around the world. Jared Dalport talks about 13 people dead in Kiev. So begins the Ukrainian revolution. It's been going on for more than 20 years, Jared. Hayden Schwartz, it's kicking off in Kiev, crazy in Caracas, itching in Istanbul, and boisterous in Bangkok. At least it's all calm in Johannesburg, not if you're in the traffic cave. Julian Mele says, Sano the poet, why is the DA not concentrating on the election and instead marching against the ANC? See Kiev 2014. Yes, that is right. That is a fair point. Of course, keep it coming. We love your contributions. We love interacting with you, and we love your pictures especially. So send it to @SABC Newsroom. That's where we live on Twitter. And you can send your comments, and we'll read it out loud, and we'll, see what you're thinking about. The show, of course, broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are then repeated at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 every weekday morning, with the entire show available all day on our YouTube channel. You're watching SABC News. This was Newsroom, where we love it in the morning.